I mean, honestly, dude, I feel like I gained like thousands of years worth of wisdom in a few sessions of
I got
ayahuasca.
robbed by French prostitutes. If that's the price I have to pay to live a life of freedom, then I'll pay it.
What we have on the table here today is definitely a unique story. I brought Connor onto the show here because I think he definitely has something worth saying. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Connor, who are you? What do you do? What motivates you in the morning when you wake up?
Yeah, I'm Connor. Yeah, I'm 28. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Long background in music. That's kind of where I got my start traveling. I guess what you were referring to in the intro is I live kind of an alternative lifestyle. Like I travel a ton. Right now I have a motorcycle and I'm trying to ride from Ireland all the way to Japan. And right now I'm in Ukraine, just shooting some YouTube videos, stuff like that, doing interviews, podcasts myself. So I guess what gets me up in the morning is that, I mean, I don't want to come in too hot, but we're all gonna die someday. So you might as well live before you die. But yeah, I feel like the world's like a really big place. It's meant to be explored, at least for me. That's what I'm put here to do, is I want to explore the earth.
Absolutely. Where have you been so far? Where did this desire to travel start? Where did you start, and what wanted to keep you going?
It was actually, your listeners probably don't know, but Adam and I did an activity called drum corps when we were younger, like in our early 20s, where it's like a professional ish marching band. It's like the highest level marching band that there is in the world. And there's a circuit that tours around the US. You tour for about 2 months out of the summer each year. That first got me interested in travel. I mean, it's not like when you're in it, it's such a professional kind of like day-to-day grind situation that you don't feel like you're seeing a lot, because you're really not. You're seeing like, the venues and the rehearsal facility and stuff like that, but you really are traveling. I mean, you go all over the country, you go thousands of miles each summer, and that was cool to me. Like, even when we got a little free time, being in Texas or Minnesota or North Dakota or Nebraska or whatever it is, like whatever random ass state you're in, it's a good time to like go out and explore. So that's where I first got the idea of like, oh yeah, like I don't have to live a regular life. Like I can just do what I want and do amazing things. Like drum corps is something that most people have never heard of, but it's an amazing activity and it lets you explore the country in whatever capacity. And yeah, so that's kind of where I got the motivation. And it made me realize you don't have to like travel in a luxurious fashion either. Like we were living like hobos, like barely eating, getting sunburned every day, like sleeping on the floor, but it was a great time. Like it was some of the best years of my life. And that kind of inspired me to get out there and see the world in whatever capacity I have possible. And right now I don't have a lot of money. This is like a rare occasion that I'm in a decent hotel room. You make it work no matter what you have. So that's what I'm doing now.
You've learned to get comfortable with living with discomfort. I feel like you don't grow without a little bit of discomfort, and that was certainly the case with drum corps. We woke up every day and it was uncomfortable. It's one of the most, maybe one of the most uncomfortable experiences you could do for 3 straight months, or I think it was longer if you include all the camps in the off season to prepare for it. Yeah, I'd say I got my passion for travel and appreciation for the differences, because it's like as soon as you step out from your hometown in Florida or Georgia or wherever you're from, and then you see it's like, oh, they do things differently here. That's not how things were back in my hometown, and then you start to question. It's like, is anything that I know even like what people say it is? And then you have like, it's really interesting to see like all those differences, and I'm sure you've continued to see them. You were because you've been in Colombia, and which other countries have you been to so far?
Throughout my life I've been to I think 18 countries, something like that, maybe 19. But I mean, like the majority, kind of the big trips I've taken was I lived in Japan for a year teaching English. I studied abroad in Europe in college, in Italy, and a little time in Poland as well. And then I lived in Colombia for 4 months, and now I would say I'm living in Europe. I'm like touring across the continent. And I kind of want to get back to what you're saying about learning about new cultures and stuff. I think drum corps, our kind of coming of age, I view it as like a coming of age ceremony where you're like 18, 19, like a young man, like a boy turning into a man. I feel like travel is such a quintessential part of growing up, because you start your life and you have just your mother and your father and any siblings and your like tight knit family. And as you grow up, your circle gets bigger and bigger. You have friends, you have family. Now with social media, our circle is huge. And I feel like if you don't travel, you're kind of like limiting yourself to mature. You know, I feel like if you're older and you haven't left the country, like you're really missing out on like expanding your mind. You know what I mean? And yeah, I have some different thoughts about this, but I feel like even when you get older now, like I'm almost 30, and I feel like travel is a great tool to expand your mind, but then beyond that, you have the psychedelic realm. You know what I mean? I don't know how much we can talk about that, but I feel like it's all a mind expansion exercise. Travel, psychedelics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with opening your mind. If you just confine yourself to one space, as you get older, you have these grooves or patterns that just get worn down in your mind, and travel is definitely a way to break through those patterns and make new neural connections, make new changes that can affect your whole life experience for the rest of your life, developing new habits. Same thing with psychedelics. That is a huge thing that can, it's amazing that something, these like tiny, just little substances can completely change your path. You know what I mean? We were in Colorado, and it was just one of the most
Classic.
life-changing things. I remember we were just like chilling in a hot tub, and there was like a full moon, and I just remember looking up, and then it started snowing, and it was just like the most, and then like a song like that I really liked came on, and I think it was like Tame Impala. Yeah, it was Tame Impala. This was back in...
So classic, bro. So classic. Acid, Tame Impala.
Yeah, it was right before the pandemic happened, and it was like my last big like travel trip that we did. It was in a transition to here in California, and it was beautiful, amazing, and I'll definitely never forget it.
I feel like travel is like a way to, I don't know, I don't want to lose anybody because I'm kind of hippy dippy with all this shit, but like travel is moving through this realm, like this kind of dimension that we're on, like going to Prague or going to Germany or going to Czechia. It's like moving within this realm. But then the psychedelic travel, you're traveling like internally. So you have external travel and you have internal travel. And I feel like both of them are essential to, I don't know, inner peace, I guess. I mean, for me at least. You know, during the pandemic, everyone was stuck at home, me included, and I just felt like, what's the point of life even? Like, I just felt like I wasn't traveling externally, I wasn't traveling internally, I was being challenged, but I wasn't being like confronted with new things and new ideas, and it was just so fucking boring. I remember I didn't leave the house for like the first month. And when I say I didn't leave the house, I don't mean like I went to the park or I stayed away from people. I meant literally, physically, I did not leave my house. Like I was in the same building for a month. And that really was a struggle because I feel like in my nature, I always have to move. I have to like meet new people. I have to eat new things. I have to explore new places. I have to like learn new languages. It's like a mind exercise, and I felt like I wasn't being challenged in that way. It really felt like I was dying. Actually, it felt like each day I was just wasting away. Like, what's the point of even existing if I'm not going to live? You know. So after a month of that, I started planning a trip, and I started driving my car across the country. I left in July of 2020. You know, probably not the most responsible thing to do, but it's what I needed at the time. And I went to like a ton of national parks, and I met a lot of people, and I went to more conservative states, places that I usually wouldn't go because they were open, and I met conservative people, and it like, I don't know, just changed my view on a lot of things. That's just in my nature. Like always need to move and be challenged in things. And like, for example, if I had like some mushrooms at home, it might have been a different story because then I could travel internally, I could like connect new ideas and like, I don't know, just have novel new experiences, but I didn't have that option, so I traveled. But I feel like both of those things kind of scratch the same itch, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think when you were doing that, I was doing a really big internal journey with psychedelics for sure, and I completely agree with that point. If you feel like you're stagnant, one of the biggest things you can do is change the scenery, for sure. Even if you just rearrange your house to like a different perspective, even that can help.
Agreed.
Wow.
I totally agree. I rearranged my room during COVID. Those were the days, man. I remember that.
Yeah, everything was locked down, and I mean, at least there wasn't as much traffic. It's probably better for the environment, but
It's funny because you look back on those times, at least I do, and, you know, obviously it was terrifying. I can't stress enough, Adam, I legitimately thought the world was ending. Like, I was full paranoia. I was like, lock everybody in their houses, don't let anybody breathe, fucking deliver groceries, like military, martial law. I was literally freaking the fuck out. I mean, I'm not joking. I did not leave my house for a month because I was afraid to put on the mask. I was afraid to... Bro, I remember pulling up to stoplights with my window down. You know, it was like beautiful. We had a beautiful spring in the southeast. And I remember pulling up to a stoplight, windows down, and there'd be a car next to me, and I would roll the window up. I was like, I don't want your air. So, yeah, trust me, dude. I was like full on paranoia. But, you know, once I left, you know, everything changed. It's great. It's funny how it's just like a mental switch. You can just kind of turn it off.
it was. I remember the grocery stores were running out. It's like I had to just eat peanut butter. I was like, I guess I'll just survive somehow. It's pretty crazy. People freaking out about toilet paper.
But it's funny about how, like, I was going to say, it was terrifying, but it's weird how we can look back on it, like, with a weird sense of nostalgia. Like, man, I remember that. Like, it's almost like it was a good time. You know what I mean? But it wasn't at all. But when you look back, you're like, those are the days.
Yeah, it's because we've settled to a point of, I mean, it's like, is COVID going on? Is COVID still not going on? I don't know. It depends on which news source tells me now. I just try to ignore the news these days because it makes me, I don't know. It's like I don't like to listen to the news, and I'd rather just be out in nature and stare at a tree or something.
My man. I feel the exact same way. I feel like people just obsess over that shit to the point where it becomes like part of their personality, like talking about news articles and like drama in the world. And it feels good to just disconnect. And that was why that trip out west was so nice, because the world was like losing its fucking mind. And meanwhile, I'm in a national park in Arizona, not giving a fuck, you know, hiking every day, living like a hobo, but being happy.
It must feel liberating to know that you can survive on minimal stuff, you know? That idea of minimalism, that you can be happy with more or less of better experiences than more stuff.
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's a Stoic philosophy. One of those Stoic philosophers mentioned this, and Stoicism is a philosophy like based on minimalism and like self-reliance. And it was like wealth isn't measured, I'm totally gonna fuck this up, but this is like the gist of it. It's like wealth isn't measured in how much you have, but how little you need. You know, the same can be said for my lifestyle right now. Like, I'm not really making a lot of money on YouTube or with Patreon or whatever. Oh, by the way, your listeners, if you're interested in this conversation, go check out my Patreon, check out my YouTube channel, Connor McBee. Okay, it would really help me get all the way to Japan, because I'm trying to make it across 2 continents on a motorcycle. Anyways, wow, I just went into full fucking promo mode there. Jesus Christ, I feel like
You're good.
I forgot what I was even saying. Oh yeah, minimalism. So yeah, if you're able to survive on like less, then you're actually rich. You know what I mean? Like all these people like working 9 to 5s back home, like, oh, how do you do it? How do you afford it? How do you blah blah blah? And it's like, I mean, you know, it's probably not the best setting for me to be in this nice hotel room, but usually I'm in like grungy hostels eating pasta and stuff. But if that's the price I have to pay to live a life of freedom, then I'll pay it. You know what I mean? And I feel like I am wealthy because I need so little, if that makes sense.
I think our society teaches us from a young age that we live in this world of, it's like, oh, there's only so much of this, there's only so much of that, there's only so much of, it's like there's like a finite amount of everything. That's what we're taught from a young age. But as I've learned, the more you get in the mindset of this idea of abundance, and that there's enough to go around for everybody, and that there's this, like, if you think about it, so this is gonna get kind of deep. So if the universe was created from nothing, if we believe that, if when the Big Bang happened, it was like this little point of matter, and it just expanded from nothing. If we believe that, I mean, who knows? Maybe we could have just come into existence right now, and we forgot. But now we're here. Anyways, so if we believe that the universe came from nothing, then like you can create abundance from. I think nothing. That's what I've kind of come to find, that there's more than we're led to believe that's like out there. I don't know. Is that crazy?
No, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I never thought of it in those terms. To my little human ant brain, I have trouble like wrapping my mind around something coming from nothing. On an intellectual level, I just can't understand how that would happen. You kind of lost me, but I see what you're saying.
Sorry, I read this. There's this one really interesting book that I read. It's not about like religion per se, but I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called Conversations with God. It's by Neil Donald Walsh, and so the whole premise of his books is basically he got so pissed off at God, he wrote like this angry letter, and then like all of a sudden he had like this sidekick, like like it's pretty crazy. I don't know how much I believe of this, but it had some interesting points in the book. That was definitely one of them. It's like a weird dichotomy of stuff that there is and isn't, which it made more sense when I was listening to it when I was on shrooms. But definitely an interesting concept that sometimes I don't fully understand. But to that, I also think that having gratitude for the things that you do have allows you, I think, like attracts more to you. Would you say that that maybe something like that has happened in your experience?
Yeah, I don't know if I believe in the whole like manifesting thing. I'm pretty woo woo on a lot of shit, but I feel like the manifesting thing, I just don't. I'm not fully on board there, but I feel like what it does is like if you have a wealth kind of prosperous mindset, you just start viewing things in that way. And I don't know if necessarily that means it attracts things to you or that you're just focused more on the positives in your life. I don't know. I mean, just shit comes and goes, man. I mean, especially on the road, like there'll be months where I'm like really stressed about money, where I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make this trip possible. I don't think I can afford gas. I don't think I can afford groceries, shit like that. And then there'll be other months where it's really nice, like here in Ukraine, it's really cheap and people help you out, and sometimes they refuse to let you pay for things. And so I don't know. I'm not really sure if I believe in like the whole manifestation thing, but I just feel like life kind of just ebbs and flows, and if you get like too entrenched in one kind of mindset, like too entrenched in like a panicked kind of victim mindset, or like I don't know, if you feel like the world's out to get you, then like that's your reality. That's what you're gonna see in everything, no matter what is happening actually to you. But if you think bad things are happening, then yes, bad things are happening. And if you view things in stride and you view things like as a conqueror and like as someone who's prosperous and someone who can figure it out, then that's your reality,
I've come to find, at least for me, that it seems that the more actions that you do for the reality that you want, the more that happens. It's kind of like almost like a cause and effect. I mean, stuff can happen too, but it's like not always planned. I mean, you can't see everything. It's part of the whole experience without limitation.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to trust. Like, for example, I mean, I keep talking about myself, but I feel like on this trip I've had like so many days where I'm like, I don't know if this is actually possible. Like, especially over the last few weeks, I've been kind of doing a little more research, and I'm realizing like I don't actually think it's possible to ride my motorcycle all the way to Japan, like with border crossings, and you have to get the special piece of paper, and it's like $5,000 to import a motorcycle into certain countries in the Middle East, and blah blah blah.
Oh, really? Wow.
And I've been realizing like, I don't actually think this is possible. But long story short, I'm just going to end up selling the bike somewhere in Europe, and then I'll just figure it out from there. But I will make it to Japan. So follow me on YouTube to join the journey. It's about like trusting. So like recently I've had a lot of doubt about this shit, and I don't know, like if you actually believe in what you're doing, if you believe you're like on the straight and narrow path, and you believe like what you're doing is just and righteous and is worth doing, then things will just kind of fit within that kind of framework, if that makes sense. Like if you prioritize doing something you really want, like you'll fit other things in that kind of box, if that makes sense. It's like when people ask me like, oh, how do you travel? How do you do this? And I'm like, well, first of all, you just have to change your mind state. Like, do you actually think it's possible? And first of all, you have to believe that it is, like to live a different life. And then things will make sense from there. But like if you're constantly thinking about like, oh, how much money is it, or am I going to be able to cross these borders, or am I going to be able to speak this language? If you're worried about like the details before you're worried about like the general overall philosophy, then I don't think it's going to work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's something. It's like kind of that adaptability. You have to believe in your mission, your like your cause. It's kind of like when you get up, it's like, this inspires me. It has like that kind of drive that you want to go do this thing. The details kind of fall in place when you're supposed to worry about them. Because I mean, it's something like that. It's like you can't possibly imagine anything could happen, but you can't plan for everything. You know, you can only hope for the best.
A lot of times people are like so caught up in the details before they even get started, you know? And I mean, to me, I'm like a big passion guy. Like, I feel like I live my life with a full heart. I kind of let my heart lead me in things, and which is for better or worse sometimes. Sometimes it really fucks me over. With me, I was like, I just want to ride my motorcycle, so I'm going to make it work. You know what I mean? Before figuring out any of the details. Like, I bought the motorcycle when I was still in the US. I looked it up online. I did a little research. I like Skyped with the guy who was selling it to me, make sure it runs, basic shit. And then I got over here and I was like, oh yeah, I need this document. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get in this country. I don't know if I need to be vaccinated, all this shit. It gets me in trouble sometimes, but like, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like I kind of put the horse before the buggy, just figure it out. You know, I mean, that's what life is all about, man. If you're sitting in your room in Atlanta or whatever, like stressing about the details of something that hasn't even happened yet, to me that doesn't make sense. Like, I don't want to live like that. And I'm not hating on people that do. I mean, that's totally fine. I understand everyone's different. I understand, like, I'm on a weird kind of life path, but for me that just doesn't, I just don't like that. I don't want to live like that.
Yeah, you just gotta
So
put yourself out there and do the thing, which, I mean, you've proven you're doing it. You got this far, and I have a good feeling you'll get to Japan. What unforeseen? I'm really curious about the leg coming up. Which route, which journey are you going through? Russia up north, or you're trying to go further south to Japan?
Well, the short answer is I don't really know. There's a few options. Obviously cannot go to eastern Ukraine. That's where the front line is. That's where a war is taking place. If your listeners don't know, there's a war in Ukraine. Okay? If you haven't turned on a television in 7 months. So I will probably go south. Well, I'm going to Kiev tomorrow. Going to Kiev. And then I'll go south through Transnistria. It's a semi-autonomous zone. It's like a nation within a nation, but it's not recognized by any United Nations countries. It's within the borders of Moldova, which is a place many people have also never heard of. It's a country that borders Ukraine and Romania. It's like an ex-Soviet state. So Ukraine, Transnistria, Moldova, Romania. Basically, I'm going to cut down through Eastern Europe, maybe go to Albania, like on the Mediterranean, and then go through Turkey. I do need to sell the bike while I'm still in the European Union. And then I will go to Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, India, Malaysia, Laos, Vietnam, and then hopefully take a boat to Japan, maybe Hong Kong or Taiwan or somewhere along there. That's just a rough outline. Like, that could change in 2 hours when I find out something new. I'm going to stay open, but biggest thing is I do need to sell a bike in Eastern Europe while I'm still in the European Union to avoid taxes and all that boring shit. Middle East, South Asia, Southeast Asia. Another option is what I could do is keep the bike, drive through Turkey, and then get like a ferry from like Romania to Azerbaijan. Yeah, from Azerbaijan to Kazakhstan, and from Kazakhstan I would need to cut through Russia for like a week, and then no, I can't go to China. Yeah, I guess the rest would be in Russia, which would be like a month or two. Which, you know, I have watched the news a little bit just to understand if I can go to Russia, and it doesn't look good, Adam. It does not look good at all for Americans in Russia. So probably will not do that route, but who knows? I mean, stay tuned on the YouTube to see what I do, but probably gonna go through the Middle East.
Yeah, that'd definitely be a little cold. Maybe you could do like a snow bike conversion in Siberia. I don't know. I would never want to end up in a gulag there. That would be pretty cold.
I mean, the thing is, like, I feel like the media is overhyping it for sure, but how much so they are, I don't know. I mean, like, I get my news, I'm going to sound like such an idiot, but I get a lot of my news through, like, YouTube vloggers, like people that have actually been to the places I'm talking about and that don't have, like, an agenda to push or whatever. So I follow this one really famous vlogger, and he just went to Russia and he got detained for, like, 4 days in prison. And then he got, you know, he had a court date and he had to like defend himself in Russian, and none of that sounds fun to me. Like, I'm not saying I'm a famous YouTuber. I'm not saying like I have a target on my back by any means, but if I could avoid going to prison, I will definitely do that. So maybe not go to Russia.
Not the best time to visit.
Yeah.
It's a long haul, but I mean, yeah, as you said, you just kind of take it a day at a time, 2 hours at a time. You'll figure it out in the end. What up until this point, what's some either pretty cool, crazy experiences slash obstacles that you were able to overcome?
Well, I got robbed by French prostitutes.
Yeah, what happened with that?
That's kind of a fun little story. It's a fun little
Wow.
story I can tell you. I was riding my bike. I was in the middle of nowhere in France. I started in Normandy, which is on the north coast of France. Maybe your listeners have heard of it. I was gonna ride like straight, like the shortest route through France to Germany because I don't, going into the trip, I didn't have a ton of interest in going to France. I just needed to get through it. So I planned like a 4-day trip through the countryside, staying at Airbnbs and shit. I actually ended up going to Paris, like on a whim. I got a couch surfing. Someone accepted my couch surfing request, which is where you stay on someone's couch for free. You just kind of hang out with them and get to know the city and have like a local tour guide. It's a decent way to travel, if you stay safe. You need to like review people, you need to verify people. Anyways, so I was checking out this girl's profile. She seems cool. She says I can stay at her place in Paris. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I go on a detour to Paris. This was in July, I think. So I don't know if your listeners are aware, but there was like a huge heat wave that went through Europe in the summer, like record-breaking heat. There was like fires breaking out in London because their houses weren't equipped to deal with the heat. Anyways, Paris isn't super far away. It's actually hotter than London because it's further south. So my bike was having all these problems because of the heat. It broke down actually in Paris. And it stopped working because it was too damn hot. So I couldn't leave Paris for like 2-3 days to wait on the heat to go by. So I waited out, leave Paris finally, and I start booking it through the French countryside. I make it to a little B&B in this small little village. It's called like Meaux, I think. And it was so fucking hot. Dude, it was like 105 degrees Fahrenheit in like 7 p.m.
Oh wow!
So I get done like editing a video or something. I'm working all day, and I go to this river. It's a town on a river, and I meet these people, and they're hanging out, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're having a good time, they're drinking liquor, like they were kind of partying by this river. And then I'm like, hey, they seem fun. So I walk over, start talking to them. They offer me liquor. Well, it's cool. We're hanging out by this river, and there's like this bridge that goes over the river, and they were kind of jumping off of it. And they're like, hey, come jump with us. I was like, yeah, sure. So I go up, I run up to the bridge, and it's me and this one girl. Oh, wait. I left out a crucial detail that right when I walked up to them, not exaggerating this in any way, I walk up to them, I say, hey, what's up? I'm Connor. And they're like, oh, you speak English, you're from USA, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like 3 guys and 2 girls, okay? And these 2 girls walk up to me, and they're like, we suck your dick? We suck your dick? And I was like, this is the first thing they said to me. Like, everyone else, I'm like, nice to meet you, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. We suck your dick? I'm like, excuse me? And by the way, they didn't speak any English other than we suck your dick. Okay? They didn't know any English. Because I responded, I was like, wait, what do you mean? They're like, oh, no English, no English. I was like, wait, that's all you know in English? Is we suck your dick? And I was like, no thank you, no thank you. And, anyways, I was like, that's a bit weird. And then we continue hanging out, and the girls are like, do you want to party? And I was like, yeah, let's party. I was like, we're partying right now, aren't we? I'm like, no, we need some more vodka. And I was like, okay, cool. Do you have any? And they're like, no, can you buy it? And by the way, this is all in like miming, like broken English, broken French, right? But I gather that they're telling me they want me to buy them liquor. And I was like, no, that's not happening. I just met you. You're possibly a prostitute. I feel weird about this. Like, I'm not gonna buy you liquor. And then the friend turns to me and he's like, no, they're serious. Like, they're prostitutes. They will fuck you. They will do anything for the right price. And I was like, okay, this is getting a little dicey. This is weird. But anyway, I'm a trusting guy. I don't really care. I'm just in it for the good time. So we continue hanging out. And then this is where they're like, hey, let's jump off this bridge. So I'm like, yeah, sure. So it's me and this dude and one of the prostitutes, and we walk up the stairs. We're sitting on the bridge about to jump off, and homeboy jumps off, and then I jump off, and instead of jumping off, the girl, the prostitute, runs back down the hill and goes to hang with her friends. And meanwhile, I'm in the river frolicking, having a good time, half drunk, and I'm kind of like hanging out. I take maybe 5-10 minutes in the river to kind of cool down. And then the thought pops into my head. I was like, oh, wait, my wallet is on the riverbank. And I was like, oh, no, it's probably fine. I wrapped it up in my towel. It's under my hat. Like, it's kind of secure. I feel like it's going to be fine. So a couple minutes go by. I get out of the river. I'm drying off. And they're like, oh, yeah, let's go home, whatever. We kind of, like, split apart. And then I go back to my Airbnb, and I look in my wallet, and my credit card has been, like, kind of shuffled around. Like, it looks like someone had been through my wallet. And so I go on my banking app, and sure enough, someone had spent $120 on some online store. They bought like an Airbnb for themselves, and they bought some shit off some French website I've never heard of. And I was like, okay, yeah, these girls, these French prostitutes, robbed me blind. I probably should have seen it. Like, I saw the red flags. Like, they were asking for money. I knew they were prostitutes. I left my wallet, like, you know, I could have done a better job, I guess, preventing that, but still felt a little violated. They went through my shit, and I thought we were cool, man. I thought I could trust the French prostitutes. Turns out I couldn't.
Damn.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been a hot day, though. I mean, that river must have felt amazing.
It was great, and it was like, you know, I don't know, maybe the heat was getting to me. It was legitimate, like 105 degrees. I was a little drunk, whatever. I was so bored sitting in that hotel or that B&B by myself that I just left, and I was like, fuck it, I just want to make some friends, and I didn't really think about it. But I forgot a part of the story that I actually got banned from Airbnb shortly after that. I don't know why. Like, I looked at my Airbnb account, and no one had... I don't think they booked it with my account. They must have booked it with their own, but maybe the credit card was linked to my B&B account. I don't really know what happened there. But I just know I got robbed by French prostitutes. They got themselves an Airbnb, and then I was banned from Airbnb like 2-3 days later. So there's something I'm missing here. But
they must have like partied up.
I think they got into the account
there, and they must have like just gone feral, and Airbnb thought it was you feral, or something.
Wow. Dude, if you saw these girls, they were fucking feral. They were not well put together.
They
were pretty ratchet. Yeah, they would have been living in a trailer if they were in Tennessee.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like cooking meth or some shit. they were those kind of people.
Well, you're probably getting better at spotting people like that out now.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. You learn from your mistakes, man. You learn from your mistakes 100%. And now, like, I never take my debit cards out. Because, dude, imagine. So that was a credit card. I actually got the money back. It's okay. But imagine if that was my debit card. And they got the CCV, the security code. And they got my, like... that would have been end of story, bro. You know, so for any of your listeners, when you go overseas, only take your debit cards out when you need to take cash out. Do not just carry them on you willy-nilly. Like, I keep mine in my hotel room locked up. No one's touching that shit because that's cash money, baby. Like, when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, you can't get it back. Have you had any bad luck with pickpocketers over there? Or, like, attempted?
Bro, it's funny you asked that. I've actually never told anybody this story. This happened like 2 days ago. So I was in Lviv in Ukraine, and I'm at this hostel, and this guy I met is cool. We go out for drinks, whatever. We're just having like a little day on the town, and we're at this like really famous kind of touristy bar where they serve like cherry liquor or cherry wine. I don't know. It's like 18%. It's really good. Anyways, we're getting like a little tipsy, and it's like a crowded kind of touristy place. And these are the places you should always be extremely careful when you travel. Like I always say, you're actually more safe in the touristy, you're more safe in the local areas because no one has kind of a chip on their shoulder. No one is like spotting people with money. But when you're in these touristy areas, people know that you have money. They know you have disposable income. They know you're there to have a good time. They know you don't know the language, blah, blah, blah. I could go on. Like they see you as a target basically, or some people do, right? I'm kind of taking the cynic's approach for this lesson, I guess, because when you're out and like in these tourist areas, you do have to kind of be on guard. Anyways, so I'm in this touristy area, and this guy bumps past me. Like I said, it was really crowded. He bumps past me, and I feel him put his hands. I want to stress again, if you're in a tourist area, be fucking careful because people know, they can see that you're a tourist. So this guy brushes past me in this crowded area, and I feel him put both hands on me, like on each side of my waist. And my friend is like, hey, be careful of pickpockets here. And I was like, yeah, that guy just, I think he tried to pickpocket me. And he's like, do you have everything in your pockets? And I was like, oh shit, let me check. Got my wallet, no phone. And so we start running after this guy. We're like, hey, did you take my phone? Are you a pickpocket? And he's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And dude, long story short, I ended up like frisking this guy. I was like, where the fuck is my phone? Like, you have it, motherfucker. And I went through his backpack. I like touched all his wallet. I touched his waistband. I was like, where the fuck is the phone? My friend thought that he saw the guy hand off the phone to the girl. Like, he kind of brushed past her in the same manner that he brushed past me. So he's like, oh, well, maybe the girl has it. Maybe he brushed past her and like slid it in her pocket to kind of get rid of the evidence or whatever. And so we run up to this girl and we're like, hey, do you have the phone? You know, what happened? And we're all there like powwowed, and I'm like, you know, going through this girl's bag. Dude, it was very thorough. Like, it was very intense. And then my friend turns to me and he's like, oh wait, didn't you tell me that you left your phone in the hostel? And I was like, oh my God, you're right. I left my phone at the hostel today, like on purpose. Like, I wanted to disconnect for the day, whatever. So I didn't even go out with my phone. I guess I was like too drunk and I forgot that I had left my phone at home. And these are the innocent people I'm bothering. I'm like frisking this guy. I'm like going through his bag. I felt so bad, dude. I felt so bad. I mean, I was the enemy. I was the bad guy in that situation.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it happens. I mean, I've had some pretty bad actual pickpocket experiences where I was in Rome and I got on a bus and I had like a jacket pocket with a little zipper right here. It was like right on my chest. So it's kind of a hard one to get to, you'd think. And I just remember looking out the window, and then I looked back down, and the damn zipper was like all the way down with my wallet, like halfway out. Like, some people are really good out there. We'll call it like maybe minor paranoia. It is justified because some people out there they're kind of crafty. Not everybody, but definitely in the big touristy areas.
Yeah, and I bet you felt like really violated when that happened too.
It's like, how
someone
do you
had
even
like
get
gone
that
through
close?
your property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a good
I
feeling.
mean, it's one thing to like go through it's like one thing to like, you know, my story with the French prostitutes. It's one thing for them to go through my wallet. I definitely felt violated. But for someone to go through your pocket, you know what I mean? Like, get that close to your body, I bet that does not feel good.
I guess like in cities versus like the country, or maybe even Europe in general, or maybe Western Europe versus like Eastern Europe. Have you seen there being like different like comfort social bubbles of like how far a person can be away from you before it's like socially unacceptable or anything like that? I know at least over in the US, it's like it's a pretty decently sized, like, you know, don't get in my... I don't know exactly how big it is, but I feel like it's a lot bigger compared to like a country like Japan or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. You're spot on with that. I don't think there's much of a difference between the U.S. and Western and Eastern Europe that I can tell. No, I mean, what I will say, though, the population density is higher in Europe. So, I mean, yeah, if you find yourself in a city or something, yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like the U.S., kind of like higher population density is like a smaller bubble, you know. But no, it's nothing like Japan. I mean, they're, you know, I lived on kind of the outskirts of a bigger city in Japan, and there, you go to the grocery store, you go anywhere, really, and there's someone within 5 feet of you all the time. It's like really, really annoying, actually.
Your least favorite thing about
Eastern
Japan?
Europe, Western Europe, it's... My least favorite thing about Japan is probably the racism.
Really?
Oh yeah, they're racist as fuck. I mean, like, you know, speaking in general terms, like mostly the older generation. Oh yeah, they're definitely racist against other Asians, against white people, against black people, really any foreigners. I mean, most people. It's like anywhere in the world. Like, most people are good folks, trusting individuals, good moral compass, but occasionally, like in public life, they will exclude foreigners from certain activities because they want it to be like just Japanese people.
I didn't think about that in other countries, about how they would be kind of have more favoritism to other people. I haven't been to Japan, but that's really interesting.
Yeah, I feel like in the West, especially in the U.S., we have this really bad reputation for being a really racist country. I don't know, maybe you think differently, but the more I travel, the more I'm like, actually, I feel like we're doing pretty fucking good for world standards. Like, you go to places like Japan, for example, you know, other Asian countries are not known for being the most tolerant. Latin American countries, Colombia, Brazil, these places like have real problems with racism and like xenophobia and stuff. And for how multicultural the U.S. is, obviously we still have some work to do, but it's pretty good, dude. Like, we are accepting of a lot of people. I mean, I think of like my friend group. I know people of all kinds of colors and like sexual orientations. Like, I feel like we're kind of done caring about that in the U.S. I don't know. Maybe do you agree or no?
No, absolutely. There's definitely some areas that are more progressive than others, at least in the U.S. Progressive state. But when we were growing up, essentially what they taught us in school was just like, "Hey kids, racism is over." They were like, "It doesn't exist anymore."
Yeah.
I'm like, I was like, okay. And then it's like, but then you have stuff that comes up, and it's still, we have a lot of stuff to work on still. But you're right. I think we are doing a lot better.
Did you grow up in North Florida or South Florida?
In Jacksonville, yeah, North Florida.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's kind of like the white part of Florida, right? Like, there's no Latinos and shit there like there is in the South, yeah?
Yeah, no, it's not like a Miami or anything, which is, I would love to have hung out more in Miami. It sounds like a fun city.
Yeah, Florida's a different place, bro. I feel like North Florida's like an extension of the South, like Alabama, Mississippi type shit, like the Panhandle, and then the South is like little Cuba,
Yeah, where all the big culture is.
Traveling through Europe, a lot of these European people, at the risk of offending your listeners, I'm just gonna say I feel like a lot of Europeans have a stick up their ass when it comes to like looking down on American culture and like gun violence and racism and stuff like that, and like kind of like the big kind of media talking points. I feel like a lot of these people over here are like very anti-American when it comes to a lot of things, or like they're openly criticizing us about a lot of shit. I just feel like we're at like the center of the world's attention as far as media and news and entertainment goes, that they view it as like a fascination to like keep up with our culture, where I don't know what the fuck's going on in Belgium. You know what I mean? Like, no one covers that on the news. Like, it's not world news what's happening in Belgium, but it is world news what's happening in the U.S. For better or worse. Like, I'm not saying it should be this way or that way, but they just are fucking obsessed with like American news and like following our presidential elections, and so like any little thing they're open to criticize. And I don't know, like I remember being in London and like, dude, I've never experienced so much like anti-American rhetoric than when I was in England. Like, people love to hate us, dude.
Really?
Like the amount of people that I got into like drunk arguments with about gun violence is like ridiculous. Like, I've never talked about gun violence so much in my life than when I was in England for like a month.
Wow.
So
Yeah, it's a complicated problem.
It is.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Has that
Sorry,
been have you left the country much? Have you like been to Europe and seen this?
I've hung out a lot in Italy, Germany, not as much as in England. I went to England when I was really young, so I didn't get to experience that same kind of hate. But I definitely, to the extent of them just kind of being fixated on us, how it's like kind of it seems like it's the center of the universe. I don't know if that's just due to media and all of that. But it is super interesting.
When did you go to Germany and France? How old were you?
I was last there back in 2015. Yeah, 7 years ago. So I feel like the world was a different place 7 years ago too. It didn't seem as I mean, everything. If you take any section of time, there's always something going on. But it feels like it was a little more stable back then. Not as much.
100%.
Sorry, I always forget how old I am.
That's probably a good thing, yeah.
I mean, it's really weird because I just turned 30 last year, and I know that I'm that age, but it feels like I'm still pretty young. Like, I don't know, I feel pretty young, and I have a lot more that I want to do. But like, do you ever feel like that you're this age, but your mind feels sharper than that? Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still feel like I'm 6 years old, honestly. Like, I feel like when I was 6, I'm serious, bro. Like, when I was 6, I think I was at my like most pure self. Like, curious, fun-loving, love to explore, ask questions, make friends, talk to girls. Like, I feel like 6 was like my prime, and I feel like I'm just kind of like riding that energy out. You know what I mean?
That's a good energy to have. There's so many people that that get older and they have like this. They have like the spotlight mentality where they're just so focused on just one way of going. But then if you like, that's their energy, like a 70-year-old that's never changed how they do things. And then like You take the illumination of a child is like it's like being in a dark room, and it's like the light disperses everywhere, so there's more potential.
100%. And I feel like especially guys our age, Adam, are, you know, in their early 30s, like settling down and trying to live like a good life and good Christian life, whatever. Like I think that's totally fine, and if that's what you want, go for it. But I feel like I've seen a lot of my friends kind of get into that mentality where they're so fixated on like doing this one thing, like having a domesticated life, that they're just becoming closed-minded to a lot of other ways they could be doing things, or they've kind of stopped being curious about the world. You know what I mean? And it is kind of sad to see. Like I went home for a wedding a few weeks ago for one of my good friends, and you know, just talking to a few people at the wedding, and like I feel like a lot of it's like premature aging. Like they turn 30 and they're like, oh, now I have to like live like I'm 70. You know, now I have to like buy a car and like make, you know, get a mortgage and not ever leave my neighborhood and like work a 9 to 5, and now I have to like buy into this kind of societal framework, which, like I said, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. And like, to be fair, I think I will live like that one day. But for now, I still feel like I'm in my 6-year-old phase where I'm like exploring things and asking questions. And so I just feel like it's sad to see like people kind of buy into that blindly. Like if that's what you want, do it. But like to see people just kind of like, oh, well, I'm 30, so now I have to such and such and such. I'm just like, nah, that's not, you don't have to do that, bro. Like you can, like life is a really kind of abstract thing. You can just do whatever you want, right?
Yeah, you can. It's you're the creator in your life. I think. I mean, I've definitely gotten fed up with society, and it's like society is like, oh, go do this, go do that, like show up for this, or you can't do this. It's like they have all these rules, and some of the rules I'm just like, I think I'll do it a different way. Like I don't wanna go with their definition of this or that. Like I want to make that and define it for myself, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, for something as unique to you as your life, like that is the most unique thing to any person. Like that is the most sacred thing in my opinion. Like your life, your choices, how you want to live. And I feel like you're really selling yourself short if you just kind of like purchase a like pre-packaged life, like wife, kids, house, car. Like if you, you know, if that's what you want, then do that, and I think that's beautiful. But like if you're doing that to just like kind of buy into something just to feel good about yourself, I think one day you're gonna end up regretting that. At least that's what I'm banking on. That's how I'm living. I'm living like this is my life. It's the most original, creative, beautiful thing I could possibly do. So let's make it original.
Or how you were able to pay for stuff kind of in like unconventional ways, like woofing. I think you were working some interesting jobs here and there. I'm asking this for Hunter's not here, but he's really interested in doing like the sustainability, like woofing thing. What's been your experiences with that on like farms and all the other stuff?
That's a good question. This is pretty interesting, and it can get dicey, like working on farms. It's really just with any internet people, you have to just vet them. You have to make sure you're not walking into a creep's house, because a lot of these websites work similar to Airbnb, but with less vetting. So like, I don't have to explain how Airbnb works to your listeners. We all know that it's like pretty thorough. There's reviews. If you get a bad review, like your account's deleted, right? My account's deleted. I don't even know what the fuck I did. So it's like easy to, whatever. People are held accountable on B&B is what I'm saying. But on websites like Woofing, it's a little more amorphous. Like the first one I ever did was at the Grand Canyon. It was in the summertime, so it doesn't rain at the Grand Canyon in the summer. It's extremely hot. It's probably 120, 125 degrees. Average is around like 115 every day. In Celsius, that's like 45 or something ridiculous. That should have been the first red flag. Like, farm on the Grand Canyon in the desert? How is there a farm here? But I just saw Grand Canyon and I was like, fuck it, I'm applying. She had no reviews. I just went there. I just showed up and I pulled up to the house and just weird kind of like Grateful Dead, hippie, stoner, like 70s burnout, acid vibes. This old lady, she's like in her 60s. I could tell she had done too much acid back in the day. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, we have like a fine relationship. And it turns out, Adam, it wasn't even really a farm. Like, she had a few kale plants, and I just watered a few crops each day in her greenhouse. I fed her dogs and her chickens. It was a very easy job. And in return, she gave us food. She gave us, obviously, a place to stay. I don't think I spent money for like a week, 2 weeks, something ridiculous like that, where I was just living for free and doing, I can't stress this enough, doing minimal work. Minimal. Like, I would wake up and just water plants and feed animals. And that was my job, right? One day, so I'm working with this girl, Monica. It's me and Monica, and Sunny is the host. And Monica's like, oh, I need to fly home to Connecticut because my grandfather's dying. And the nearest airport to West Grand Canyon is Las Vegas. So she's like, can you drive me to Las Vegas? Because remember, I'd been driving my car across the country. So she's like, hey, Connor, can you drive me to Las Vegas to get this flight? And I was like, oh, of course. And she's like, hey, we'll make a weekend out of it. And Monica, I think she maybe had access to her parents' money or something. She was like living beyond her means somehow. So she's like, hey, I'll get us a hotel room in Las Vegas. You don't have to pay for anything. I was like, okay, sweet. And so we're driving. That's the plan, right? We're going to go to Las Vegas and get a hotel room and party for the weekend. Before we leave, Sunny, the host, is like, hey, let's go out to dinner. Monica is like, we'll go out to dinner. I'll treat you guys. We'll have a little going away party because Monica's about to head out. So we go to this restaurant and we sit down, and Monica is like a little bit of a younger girl. She kind of like, you know, she's like 19. She just didn't really know who she was type shit. Like a confused kid sometimes. So we sit down at dinner, and remember, Monica says she's going to pay, and they bring out the waters, and Monica's like, oh, I'm not hungry. And we're like, oh, okay. Well, are we still going to eat here? And she's like, can we just go home? And we're like, okay, yeah. So we just like get up and leave. Like, we didn't order anything. We didn't pay for anything. We just got waters and left. It was mad weird, right? And so Sunny in the car is like, oh, don't worry. Like, we'll still have a little party. Like, I'll cook us. We have some ahi tuna in the fridge. And Sunny was a really good cook, by the way. She's like, I have some ahi tuna, and I'll grill up some tuna steaks for us. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like 6'2", I'm like a bigger guy, still have a blazing fast metabolism. I'm like, I will eat the fuck out of some tuna steaks. So we're in the car riding home, and Sunny like kind of has a change of heart. She's like, oh, well, let's get pizza rolls instead. So she like goes into the dollar store and gets like some shitty pizza rolls. And, you know, they're like women. I don't know how women's metabolism compares to other people, but for me, like, I ate a lot more than them. You know what I mean? And she cooks the pizza rolls. I'm like, okay, that's cute. Like, pizza rolls, that's cute. Like, a little snack. But, like, all right, where's those tuna steaks that you said we could eat? And Sunny, like, unprovoked, just loses her fucking mind on me, dude. She loses it. She's like, you eat so much. You don't work enough. You're lazy. All this stuff. You're, you know, I can't rely on you. And, like, just stuff that I had never heard her express before. You know what I mean? And I'm sure maybe your listeners are like, oh, there's another side of the story. Like, okay, fair enough. But keep in mind, she had never expressed any of this to me before this moment. This precise, like, iceberg kind of glacial moment. Like, it would be one thing if she came up to me and was like, hey, you know, can you wake up earlier and feed the chickens earlier? Or can you, like, stay out longer and water this or blah, blah, blah. Like, we could have had an adult conversation about it. But she just fucking exploded on me, dude. Like, out of nowhere. Like, I have never heard these arguments before in my life. And so I said this to her. I'm like, hey, you know, maybe we could come to an agreement. Like, maybe I eat less. Maybe I work more. Like, can we talk about this? And she just doubled down. She's like, no, you know, you're crazy. And, you know, you're, I don't know, whatever. She just lost it on me, bro. So the next day, I was, like, driving Monica to the airport for, like, a weekend trip. And I just never came back, dude. I just never. Yeah. I was like, it's not even worth dealing with that again, you know. No. So all that goes to say is, like, if you're gonna do woofing, definitely vet the people, because I think Sunny maybe had one review, but you want to go to, like, credible places where, like, a lot of these places will actually, like, request that you send in an application. You know, a lot of it's really, like, thorough kind of vetting and stuff like that. They'll vet you should vet them. It's more like a job where this was just like, yeah, you're a fucking warm body, like, come just do some basic work and get screamed at. Yeah.
Wow, that was definitely like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. Complete. Maybe she had like bipolar disorder or something. like maybe undiagnosed. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I've seen
Yeah,
I've seen
and also
people
she
flip
smoked.
like that.
Yeah, it was scary, dude. It was like a rabid dog. Like every other day, she was totally fine, like happy-go-lucky, sunny, no problems with anything. And I think that was the issue. Is like she maybe was a pushover about a lot of stuff that I just didn't realize, and then one day it just kind of broke, and she just had enough.
Snapped.
You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, that all that goes to say, like, I guess to answer your question is definitely view it as like a job. Like I viewed it as like a place to stay and like free food and like a little bit of work. But if you're gonna do woofing, I think you should go to like a credible place where they're gonna hold you accountable for the number of hours you work. And that's another thing too. There's another website. It's called World Packers. It's actually I'm a partner with them, so I've actually done one of these experiences where it's similar to woofing, but on woofing it's just farms. But World Packers is a bit more. You have more options as far as what you can do. So I was working on this this bed and breakfast in Wales. Really, really nice spot. If you go to my YouTube channel, the title is Europe's Friendliest Country. It might surprise you. Anyways, I was in Wales volunteering at this like manor, this like estate, where they had all this land. They had like a lake. They had chickens. It was like a big ass property, and they had this old 1500s, I think Georgian era English home, but it was in Wales. Anyways, ancient house, tons of property, really fucking nice spot, like luxury. Like I could never afford this place. I looked at the prices for rooms, and they're like $160 a night. I'm not exaggerating, bro. Like tip top, fucking beautiful spot. And I stayed there for 2 weeks, rent free. I ate 3 meals a day for free, and I just worked in the garden for 5 hours a day. I think 5 hours a day. I worked in the garden, and they were very accountable. They're like, all right, you start at 9, with an hour lunch break. You finish at what's that, like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, something like that. So it was like a job. You know what I mean? Like I spoke to them on the phone before the experience. I kind of vetted them. They vetted me. It was like a very kind of above the table arrangement. So World Packers is like a solid website. And if your listeners are interested, they can use my code. I think it's McBeats13 for $10 off the membership. But I mean, I recommend that definitely because it's, I don't know, just woofing to me seems a bit like, I don't know. I only did it once, but my experience was really bad, so I just can't, in good conscience, recommend it to people. But there are tons of options for free rent.
Yeah, definitely
So,
look at it like a job. Definitely vet people. I bet that would definitely help a lot of people out, so they don't have like a similar.
yeah, but I mean, there's
experience like that.
there's a lot of ways to get free rent that people I don't think realize, and that kind of goes along with what I was talking about earlier. Like if you just decide you're going to do this kind of like alternative lifestyle, like travel long term or whatever, you will find ways to stay for free. Like another example is I volunteered at a hostel in Dallas, Texas. It wasn't for long. I think it was 10 or 11 days in Dallas. Scrubbing floors, cleaning air conditioning vents, changing bed sheets, like not glamorous work at all, but it got me free rent. If you kind of change your mindset on money and like money doesn't buy, if you view it as like money doesn't buy you items, it buys you freedom and it buys you time, then like your life changes a lot. At least it has for me. Like if you have $1,000 and you're buying hotel rooms every night for $50, how many nights does that get you? Well, you might say 20, but with food and gas and living expenses, that $1,000 might last you, with hotel rooms, with everything else, maybe 10, 11, 12 days in the US. If you can like cut out those costs, like hotels, gas, food, stuff like that actually is a huge part of your budget, you will stay on the road for longer. So it's just kind of like little tips and tricks to just stay out there for longer.
That's really utilizing
sense.
a lot of your resources. Yeah, I bet a lot of people haven't heard of that.
There's woofing, there's World Packers, there's Workaway. That one's pretty popular. And honestly, dude, like anytime I'm at a hostel and I like really am digging the neighborhood I'm in, like I think I could stay for like a month or two, I just ask the management. I'm like, hey, do you guys need help? Could we do a work exchange? And just kind of like negotiate it in person. And you'd be surprised, a lot of people are like willing to do a work exchange, especially if they're not paying you. Like if you're kind of just free labor to them, but then they're letting you stay for free. I think it's an even exchange, and it lets you stay on the road for longer.
There's seems like there's opportunities out there if you just pretty much every one of your videos. And one of the themes that I noticed was you just gotta ask people. You can't be afraid to ask, because you never know what opportunities may be there, or be presented to you. Because if you just go like throughout your life and just don't even put your foot through the door, or ask, then how are you going to know?
Yeah, and it does take a good amount of humility, because at the end of the day, like, I realize how much money I have, and it's not a lot. It's really not enough to do what I'm trying to do, but so it does kind of require like a bit of, I don't want to say finagling, but like a bit of creativity.
Creativity and getting into the Glastonbury Festival.
Yeah, dude, that was like one of the most fun travel experiences of my life.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so for anybody who's listening, it's a video on my channel. It's called "Sneaking into the UK's Biggest Music Festival," and it's exactly what it sounds like. I have kind of a history of sneaking in places. I snuck into a few college football games, snuck into the national championship, and I kind of discovered it's like, I don't want to say it's a talent of mine, but like I'm like weirdly good at it, or it's like weirdly easier than I thought it was going to be. I kind of have this in the back of my mind while I'm in the UK, and I snuck into a concert or a music festival in Argentina as well. And I heard just by chance that Glastonbury, one of the biggest music festivals in the world, it's about this past summer it was, I think, 250,000 people in attendance. While it's going on, it's actually the biggest city in the region of England that it's in. So anyways, I was at Salisbury, where Stonehenge is, and there was a pagan festival for the summer solstice, and I went there. That's also a video on my channel. And then just by coincidence, the next day was Glastonbury, this huge music festival, about like 45 minutes, maybe an hour away from Salisbury at the Stones. So I was like, all right, I guess we're gonna try this. So I went there like sleep deprived as fuck. I had just seen the sun come up over Stonehenge, didn't sleep. I was like, all right, I'm going to buy some groceries. I bought a tent. I bought a sleeping bag, like a little comforter. And I just went full send, bro. I like packed up a few bags. I parked my bike at this Airbnb. I took a bus to Glastonbury. I had like groceries, a cooler, food for 3 days. Like, I was ready, bro. Like, if they said no to me sneaking in, I was fully prepared to just like camp out outside of the grounds and just wait to get in somehow, however I could. I show up, dude, and in the video, like, you'll see a few people were commenting like they think it's cap, they think I'm like making it up, they think it's like a fake stunt that I did sneaking in, which I totally understand their doubt and hesitation to believe me, because in the video it actually seems unbelievable how easy it was. Like, I literally just walked in the front. And before I went there, I was hearing all these like myths and fables about, everyone's like, ooh, it's so hard to get in. There's a 10-foot wall, which there is. There's like a chain link fence, and then there's like a huge constructed like prison wall, like 10 feet high. So it's like really secure. They have guard towers on all the corners of the festival. I heard all these crazy stories about people digging tunnels underneath the gate and like escaping from security, people wearing like fake high-vis jackets, people doing all kinds of crazy shit, man. Like the fable, the myth kind of getting into Glastonbury is really strong in the UK. Like, people love sneaking into this place. And they're like, oh, it's so hard, it's impossible. And I was like, I'm just going to try it. So I literally, it's not even much of a story. I literally just walked in, bro. I went through the VIP entrance. And they're like, hey, sir, do you have your ticket? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I put my stuff down. And literally, in just the blink of an eye, I put my stuff down. He turns to someone else to like check their ticket, and I just continue walking. And I just get in. And it was that easy. And then I partied for 5 days straight. It was the time of my life, man.
Wow. Is it kind of like the UK's version of Burning Man, or like a Coachella or something like that?
Yeah, Burning Man, I don't know if you classify Burning Man's kind of in its own league, because it's just different. Like, they don't take money, and it's very different every year. But Glastonbury I would equate it more to like Bonnaroo or Woodstock. It's like a classic kind of music festival. Yeah.
What was your favorite act that you saw there?
I saw the Avalanches. Do you know them?
Avalanches. I think I do.
They have a weird history. They got together in like the late 90s. Maybe their debut album was in the year 2000, but they just released like one really, really amazing project around that era, and then they didn't release anything for like 15 years. And then out of nowhere, they just started dropping music again, and they're really good. They're like two older American guys, I think, but they were amazing set. Like, And at Glastonbury, they have hundreds of stages. I can't stress enough. Like there's no name acts. There's headliners. Like the headliners were Kendrick Lamar, Paul McCartney, Billie Eilish, and then you have anybody in between. Like you have like SoundCloud rappers and like beatboxers and shit. And so there's just a ton of stages. And one of the stages was kind of like had a nice view of the sunset, and it's called the Park. And it was like a nice kind of amphitheater. Like the hill kind of sloped up, and it was just the perfect kind of listening environment. So
Wow.
that's probably my favorite set.
Wow, that must have been just a magical
Yeah.
time. Did you? You must
Yeah,
have
it was
partied
cool,
for
man.
5 days straight.
Yeah, I didn't sleep. I mean, I stayed up till sunrise, like I think 3-4 days in a row. It was really hard on my body, but it was fun, man. It was definitely worth it, and it was free. So
Do you still have the tent and all that? Did you end up keeping that, or?
nah, because it was like a pop-up tent, and it's really hard to travel with those. Like those big kind of circular kind of, you know what I mean? Like if it was like a regular tent that I could just like wad up into a ball and put the stakes and pegs or whatever in my duffel bag, that would be fine. But it was really hard to fit on a motorcycle. I mean, I have a lot of space restrictions being on a sport bike.
Oh, yeah.
So I felt bad. I just threw it away after the festival.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, if you had like a little mini stealth tent or something, you might be able to save expenses and just like stealth camp somewhere. And I mean, I don't know, that'd be kind of cool. I mean, it might be scary, but
No, yeah, it would be cool. And a lot of the guys, I was working at a motorcycle hostel. That was one of my other jobs. I was working at a motorcycle hostel in Ireland for a bit, and a lot of those older guys will camp. I mean, that's like the main way people travel on a motorcycle is they camp places. But to me, it just requires too much gear, like all the cooking equipment and
yeah.
sleeping bag, tent, food. It's just I just don't have room for it, dude. I barely have enough room for the shit that I do have right now. So, plus, I mean, after
Yeah.
riding on the motorcycle all day, it is kind of nice to like sleep in a bed, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime I sleep on the ground, it just gives me flashbacks of drum corps, and my body gets all sore. So, yeah, I completely understand.
We're getting older, man.
You gotta take care of the joints.
But yeah, and it's like, what's like the longest you've been out camping before, like a backpacking trip or something like that?
The longest I've gone was about 5 days. 5 days straight. We did like 30 miles or something.
Jesus.
It's quite a bit. You get used to it. I mean, I've started now using hammocks are super comfortable. And it's almost kind of like being in a recliner. All you need is a couple trees. Put the hammock up, put the little fly up, and then get in there with a blanket or something, and then you're good. That's the best sleep I've had out. I will do I'll rough it and get on the ground, but it's I still get sore. Haven't found the right pad yet. I haven't found the right sleeping pad.
Really? That's
It's,
funny you say that, because I feel like when I'm on the ground, my back feels pretty good. But so the hammock is okay on your back. It doesn't you don't feel stiff when you wake up.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You have to hang it at a certain way. Yeah, for me, I fall asleep like that, and then you just like feel the wind kind of rocking you to sleep like a rocker, like you're a little baby, and the trees are just like, shh, just go to sleep. It's kind of nice.
So you don't feel stiff when you wake up? Like your back feels fine?
A lot better than the ground. But then I'm also I've learned a little bit of I'm a physical therapy assistant too, so I've learned some stretches that I try to do and do self-care. But it's kind of funny though, because even though I know like all this, like I know the things I shouldn't do, I still you know, we try to do the things that we're not supposed to do, and then inevitably the gravity just takes its toll and can't do it to myself sometimes. So it's like I still wake up sore sometimes.
What do you mean, like stretching yourself?
Yeah, there's like, I know like trigger points I can do on like some people for like massage to like relax the muscles, and there's like certain techniques that you can do to like crack backs and stuff like that I know, but can't do it to myself. So I figured some stuff out. Like I found a rock one time just on the ground, and I was like, I bet if I like put my spine like right over it, I could like get my back to crack. And I just found like this perfect rock, and it was just like bubble wrap.
Ooh, I love that, dude. Yeah, I actually travel with a foam roller and like a little massage kind of hook, like this thing with like a ball on the end. You can kind of dig into your shoulder. You know, I have like yoga equipment and stuff. To me, like that makes a big difference in your level of comfort on the road. Like, especially when you're, camping, I imagine you can't bring much to exercise. I mean, you're moving all day, but it is nice to like have a place to kind of decompress. And I think that is kind of one of the biggest challenges to traveling is, keeping things on you. Like my buddy, and the reason I asked you this earlier about backpacking is because my good friend Garrett, a fellow drummer, is huge into backpacking and rock climbing and stuff. And he said like he'll go out for like a week at a time and just like he calls them creature comforts, like stuff that you don't really need, but stuff that improves your quality of life. So to me, that is the foam roller, the yoga mat, the massage hook. Back home I have my massage gun, but I can't bring it on the road. But stuff like that, where it's like, it kind of adds a little bit of weight to your pack, but to me it's worth it.
Yeah, this is the nicest thing to have, that kind of comfort. I think my creature comfort, I like to bring like a little journal or something, just to like write in like my thoughts and ideas. Been trying to get back into journaling. I think it's super useful for creativity, or at least if you just have random thoughts you're trying to put together or make sense of something that happened to you. I think it's definitely super useful.
And do you look back on your journal entries like days, weeks later, or do you just kind of like get it down on paper and just kind of leave it?
For some things, I'll look back on if I think it's like a super good idea. Most of the time I don't. But usually when I'm like writing it down, I'm like, oh man, this is a goal. This is a super good idea. I had this whole thing where, I guess it's sort of related. It's like anytime I would do like a session of like shrooms or LSD or whatever, I would literally just like have a journal like this, and then I would just like basically put on like, I would just listen to music the whole time or whatever, and then whatever thoughts or ideas I had, I would just like write it down real quick, because when you're in that realm, it's like these things are coming to, you're like getting these, like, I'll call them like downloads or whatever, like really quick ideas. And it's like I got to get these down, otherwise am I going to remember it? I don't know. But yeah, I started doing that, and I think that really helped. And even if you do it without doing psychedelics, I think it definitely helps.
Yeah, it is, when you're in that realm, it is hard to remember things for sure. Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying about like downloading information. Like the last 2 times I did ayahuasca, like I felt like there was kind of a part of the session where it was like really kind of ethereal, universal, hard to kind of sift through knowledge, if that makes sense, like really ancient, deep, universal wisdom from the gods. And then later in the session, it was very much like direct, like do this, like stuff that I can directly apply to my life. And I felt like, I was like, my spinal cord, like my fucking nervous system was like downloading lessons, you know what I mean? And like, I definitely understand what you're saying about after, while it's still fresh, you have to kind of jot it down, because who knows? I mean, like, I don't know what kind of access to medicine you have or other people do, but at least with ayahuasca, it's like, I don't know when I'm going to do this again, so it is good to kind of get it down while it's still fresh, so you can remember it for years to come,
Yeah, for your ayahuasca experience,
that makes sense.
You did, oh, absolutely. It makes perfect sense, because it's like it's coming to you so quick, and if you don't have that kind of access, I found the weirdest thing is it's like those kind of things they kind of found me at the right time, and it didn't take like much effort for me. It's like I always had this idea that I was interested or gonna do it someday, because I remember I read a book. It was I think like Steve Jobs did it, and like he dropped acid in Palo Alto and just listened to the Beatles, and I was like, if someone like cool like that did it, I mean, it must be okay, right? So I was like, I want to try this. I want to see what this is about. Yeah, I did. But
someone like that's successful, and like someone that you could look up to and say, oh, he's not a hippie burnout. Like, he actually made something of his life. This isn't just for losers.
Yeah, and I felt like it kind of found me at the right time. It just like kind of fell onto my lap, and I was just like, well, seems like it's the right time for me. So I don't know if you had any kind of experience like that with like ayahuasca, or what was the other one, the toad venom,
the bufo, the 5-MeO-DMT. Yeah, that one was actually funny because I was in Cancun, Mexico, just making videos, just fucking around. And this was in February. This was right when the war had broken out in Ukraine. And I actually stumbled upon this like anti-war protest in Mexico. And I met this Ukrainian girl there. And she was telling me that she had just done bufo, the toad venom. And she was like, "Oh, you should try it." And at this point, I had done ayahuasca and mushrooms and acid a bunch of times, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I think that's the move." And it just, it just finds you, just kind of serendipitously. Yeah, it definitely found me at the right time. That one was kind of weird. That one's a bit more hard to kind of sift through the information that you received. I think on like low doses of LSD or psilocybin, ayahuasca is kind of hit and miss as far as like universal, sacred, decrypted, like encrypted messages, if you kind of view it like that, like these kind of like very profound messages you receive that are kind of hard to understand like right away, but you kind of, as years go on, you kind of like understand them a little more. And then you have like the kind of direct, like talk to your father, break up with your girlfriend, like go rock climb, like just very kind of direct messages. And I feel like bufo is in that realm of like very deep, mysterious, ancient knowledge, where even to this day I'm still kind of trying to understand what that experience was about. But yeah, I do agree. I mean, it did find me at the right time, but that one's a bit more mysterious.
Did you ever think there was kind of like a sentience to it, like it had its own intelligence to it?
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000% on ayahuasca. I haven't had very high experiences on psilocybin, but I know it can get kind of extraterrestrial and like otherworldly. The most I've done on psilocybin is 3.5 grams, which is a solid dose, but I didn't experience kind of the extraterrestrial other beings that some people report. I guess I should say I've also smoked DMT, and then ayahuasca is the liquid version of DMT. But yeah, on ayahuasca and when I smoked DMT, it was definitely otherworldly. They had a sentience 100%. On ayahuasca, the medicine comes to you as a female guide. So like you're in this hut in South America or wherever you do it. You can do it in fucking North Carolina if you want, but you're just in this controlled environment with a guide who's guiding you through the physical realm, your shaman or whatever you want to call it. And then you have a guide internally to help you, like the spirit of the medicine. It's like a woman, and sometimes she appears as a demon, like if you got to work through some dark shit, or she'll appear as the last time I did it, she was like a white blonde girl with like a wreath of flowers around her head and a white dress, like leading me through a field of flowers. So it just depends on the situation, but yes, there's definitely, to DMT, there's a guide, like a sentience for sure. Is that something that you've experienced on like psilocybin or anything?
Yeah, I took a massive dose of. This is back when I kind of underestimated LSD, and I've taken it
Classic.
at least
Fucking classic.
a handful of times before, and man, I don't know why I did it, but I took like way more than I did, and I had no idea how much it was, but it was a lot.
How much did you take?
So each gummy is supposed to be like, they put like 2 drops on the gummy or whatever, and
Or 2 hits?
I think each gummy you're supposed to take like half of it. That's like 2 tabs or something. So I ended up taking like a whole gummy, and then I was like, I just want to see, and so I licked the wrapper. I mean, God knows how much was on there, because LSD, it's like micrograms. So I remember just like sitting in my kitchen, and I was like looking up at the light, and then the light turned into like this rainbow, and then the song Shine On You Crazy Diamond started playing by Pink Floyd, and then I just remember dissolving like right there. I was just like the music got so slow I could hear like every single note, and then I forgot who I was. I just after that experience, it took me a whole a day and a half to remember how to do things, to like drive my car, to like get in my car and drive.
Whoa.
I think I just like completely disassociated myself from. Then I also did this experiment where like I took a laser pointer, and I could like feel the room. So it was so weird. It's like I would take a laser pointer and I would like point it at the wall, and then I was just like, wow, I could like totally feel being part of that wall. It was like the weirdest thing. I just felt like me and the environment were like it just didn't feel. There was no difference. It was crazy. And then I remember trying to think about the concept of infinity, and I could like see it. It was the weirdest thing. Definitely felt like there was some kind of, I mean, maybe not so much for LSD because it's kind of it's a synthetic. I mean, it's derived through ergot, which is a fungus, but definitely felt like there was something there with me that was pretty powerful. I just, in my journal, I remember writing, it's kind of like super, like all over the place, but I remember writing, it was incredible, just power pulsating through my body. I don't know, it was just so crazy.
So what do you feel like you kind of, did you learn anything from that experience? Did you like take anything back to your everyday life?
For one, it's like that is what kind of put me in my place. I was just like, I thought that like I knew what I was getting myself into, and I was like, it kind of humbled me. I was like, yeah, that was kind of scary because I felt it made me work through kind of like all these emotions. I was going through some stuff, like some pretty heavy stuff relationship wise, and it kind of woke me up. It laid out like kind of all the patterns that I was doing, all my bad habits, just like all the good, all the bad. It was all just there. Kind of forced me to acknowledge it, and I've been trying to integrate that experience ever since. I think the integration it can be kind of the hardest part of that whole thing. It's like, what does this all mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And I definitely think it's really easy to just brush away. It's like, oh, it's just this medicine that wore off, and it doesn't mean anything. But I definitely think that it means something to me, and it's all me that I want to create. I want to create something. I want to be a creator, and it showed me that I'm way more well, that I'm not in control of things. I mean, all this, it's kind of like an illusion of control that we have in this world, but also shows you how you can handle things. Even though things happen to you, you can also handle them in a way that is productive to yourself.
Yeah, I think that illusion of control is really important, and the psychedelic experience definitely kind of thrusts you into that information, especially on higher doses, where I feel like psychedelics, technically, yes, they are drugs, but I think they teach us things about reality. So, like, it kind of magnifies reality. So, like, the illusion of control is completely dissolved when you're on psychedelics, and you actually see that even when you're not on psychedelics, you're actually never in control. You're not in control of the next thought you have. You're not in control of the weather. You're not in control of your parents. You're not in control of how you grew up. You're not in control of your brain chemistry. Like, this is all just a game that we're all just kind of thrust into. And especially on LSD, that was a medicine that, for me, I realized a very similar thing to you, Adam, where it's like, oh, it's all just happening. Like, it's all, we're just seeing life happen. Like, we are just kind of passengers to the world and life. And not to say there's like no accountability, but we're just along for the ride,
Yeah, we're just on this giant rock with all this shit on it, and pretty amazing to me. Sometimes I just want to, it's like everybody kind of debates like why we're here, or like what our purpose is here, but I mean, for me, it's just like, why waste your time trying to figure it out? We could just gotta go explore and have these new experiences and try to integrate them the best way we can,
Yeah. And I think it is our job, as content creators that do psychedelics, to kind of destigmatize this stuff. And I feel like conversations like this are really helpful because, for example, I was teaching, or I don't know how specific I want to be on this. I kind of started my path on YouTube and with podcasting, and I opened up among my psychedelic use. I talked about ayahuasca. I talked about, toad venom. And some people that I was working for were not happy, and they actually fired me because of things that I said on the internet about ayahuasca and like plant medicine and stuff like that. And so I feel like there's still a lot of work to do about, in this realm. And I feel like it's helpful shit. Like I'm not talking about like smoking crack and like snorting blow and like going to strip clubs. I'm talking about like useful shit that helps you like understand your place in the world, and I feel like the more we can have a conversation like this, the better.
It's really refreshing to be able to talk to someone else who's had these kind of similar experiences, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that they'll have these beautiful, transformative, life-changing experiences, and then sometimes people can have trouble integrating that stuff because they can't talk to their therapist, they can't talk to their parents about that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think we've come a lot further along, but there's definitely a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're just tools, right? And I feel like, I don't know, I have a different view on LSD than I do. I would be interested to have like a stronger dose of psilocybin, maybe like 4 or 5 grams or something, kind of like break that kind of barrier between dimensions.
Yeah.
But most notably on my experiences with ayahuasca, I had like very profound like downloads of information and like very deep and meaningful lessons that I learned about like fear and facing your darkness and overcoming anxiety and expressing your creativity and like sharing love and where do we come from as human civilization, why are we here, who put us here, and I feel like it kind of, my experiences on ayahuasca especially, put those pieces together. It cleared a lot of things up in my head that I don't even know if I would have learned those things. I mean, honestly, dude, I feel like I gained like thousands of years worth of wisdom in a few sessions of ayahuasca, like 4 hours at a time. I learned like the secrets to the universe. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's a shame that a lot of people are ashamed to talk about it.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more it becomes destigmatized. I mean, I think just recently, they finally decriminalized all psychs in San Francisco. So that's the first step, is to just not arrest people for something that's harmless. Because the fact is, it's like psychedelics, you are not gonna get addicted to them. It's been proven like time and time again. Like it's nothing. It should not be like in the same Schedule 1 class as crack or heroin or anything like that.
I wouldn't say they're harmless. I mean, physically they are low harm. Like MDMA, you could actually get hurt on if you take too much. But yeah, classic psychedelics, DMT, psilocybin, LSD. Physically, you won't get hurt, but I do think there is a risk. I mean, I view it as like lifting weights, like going to the gym. Like with your experience, what you took 4 tabs, something like that, like 400 micrograms.
This is like probably a lot more than that. I don't even know.
Okay.
Okay. Point proven. Yeah. No, there's definitely there is risk. I was maybe a little too eager to experience something, but yeah, there is definite risk, and it's definitely not for everyone. There's certain people with certain conditions that probably shouldn't have them. They're more susceptible.
Yeah. Well, it's the same as lifting weights or like exercising in an intense fashion, right? Like if you have a back problem, you shouldn't go to CrossFit for 5 hours a day. Like you have to be responsible, like just be an adult, really. Like manage your dose, manage your setting, and do it in the right place. And there's smart ways to do it and there's dumb ways to do it. But I feel like at the end of the day, all we can do is educate people on how to do it correctly. And it's like if you went to the gym with an injury and tried to lift 500 pounds. That's like an inexperienced person taking 5 hits of acid. I mean, that's just like you're asking for trouble. Go into it slow, do it with your friends, do it with some good music and like comfortable environment, and you're good, baby.
Have you ever found that even with there's stuff that came up that even though you felt prepared, that made you feel unprepared at the time?
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. Oh yeah. I mean, the thing with a psychedelic experience is I feel like you're never really prepared. Like if we're gonna actually believe what the medicine tells us, that we're never in control, you're never in control. Like if you're really along for the ride, then you'll go to places that you previously thought were too dark or too scary or just it's kind of like I equate it to like if your body and like your spirit is like a tree. Well, I sound like such a fucking hippie right now.
No, no.
But if your body and your spirit is like a tree, and you eat some mushrooms or drink some ayahuasca or whatever, and you have like an extremely dark experience, your roots get deeper, right? Like you're low, like your capacity for feeling low increases, right? Like you're able to feel more true depths to being, and then also with that, if you're able to accept that, if you're able to accept the darkness, and you're able to accept where the medicine takes you on its own terms, and you admit you're just a passenger along for the ride, you grow your roots down, and then you grow your limbs up. So you have like a greater capacity for joy and love and pleasure and things like that once you kind of explore the full range of personhood. Because like when you're constantly sitting here like avoiding negativity, you're avoiding sadness, you're avoiding all this shit, you're actually robbing yourself of joy and glee and happiness. And yeah, I mean, it's all part of the human experience. Like people ask me like, what's the point of life? I say it's just to live. It's just to have a real experience. Like truly feel sadness, like truly feel joy, express yourself fully. It's like just have a true human experience. And I feel like these psychedelics really help to kind of explore those depths and those heights.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what we're here for. Yeah, it's pretty deep.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy to think that some people out there have never even have had that experience, have like to know what that even feels like.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not here saying that everyone should take 5 grams of mushrooms. I don't want to recommend how you live your life, but for me, it's completely changed the way I look at things. Like I think about my ayahuasca experiences like every single day, and like I'm continuing to unpack them and like understand what they meant to me. And yeah, to me, it's been one of the most important things I've ever done. And to think that like, I feel like the anti-drug kind of era, like the Reagan era, like instituting the DEA and stuff like that. I think it was Nixon in the 70s made the DEA. I think they did a really good job of demonizing drugs, because I mean, even today, that was 50 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. Even today, people are like, oh, well, I don't want to have a bad trip. I don't want to see like darkness. I don't want to like, because I remember in DARE, remember that? DARE,
Oh, yeah.
like the anti-drug program.
Oh yeah.
They told us that like you could have flashbacks like decades later where like wolves were like eating your flesh and you're burning alive, and like just nightmarish fantasies, stuff that would never happen, like stuff that like schizophrenic people. To be fair, like maybe if you took 5 hits of acid and you have schizophrenia, maybe you'll see that. I don't know, but for the average guy with a decent mind, I mean, even for me, I have anxiety. I've had panic attacks and stuff, and it's not like I have the perfect mind for it, but I feel like 90% of people like should experiment at least once in their life.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with stepping out of your comfort zone if you're ready for it. Have you ever done meditation, or what are your thoughts on meditation? Have you ever done it? And then have you ever done it while you were having an experience on anything?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I was a lot better at it in years past. I would meditate every day. I had a nice streak going, but once I started traveling, I kind of broke the routine. But yeah, 100%. And then I find after the psychedelic experience, meditation is much easier, much, much, much easier. Like after my first ayahuasca experience, I confronted a lot of darkness, and I kind of overcame a lot of anxiety, and I started living in the moment a little more. And the meditations after that, like I think after like a strong psychedelic experience, the week, the month, the few months after that is you'll discover some nice stuff, and that's a great way to integrate your experience.
Yeah, I remember meditating on one of my psychedelic experiences, and it was just so powerful. It just like elevated it to a whole new level. And then they would like ring this bell or whatever, and you could like literally hear exactly like every little vibration of that bell. And then like in my mind's eye or whatever, it was just like this the voice of like the guide or whatever just separated into like multiple different waves. So I don't know if you ever seen like the
Whoa.
yeah, dude. I don't know if you've ever seen you know the Hindu god with like the multiple different arms going like this.
Krishna?
I don't. Yeah,
The
it's
creator?
like yeah, it's like they have like all these little arms, and then in my mind's eye, I like imagined that, except it was the voice with like the waves, and it was just like, oh my god, like this must be what like really like higher level meditators experience on a daily basis. And I got to like experience what that was like. I can't replicate that like on that kind of level every day, but it was just really cool to see that. And it kind of motivates me to want to have a better meditation practice, even if it's just like 10 minutes a day or whatever, to just like kind of focus.
That's actually
on
really
that.
profound that that's actually mind blowing. You're able to like see the different vibrational frequencies. Were you on LSD?
Yeah, yeah. I lit some incense, just laid on a little mat. I just put on like a little eye mask or whatever, and it was just yeah, beautiful experience.
You were was it a guided situation?
I
You had
was by
someone ringing a
myself.
bell and
I was by myself, but I used that one. There's this one app you can use. It's called Calm. It's really nice because they have like they have like daily lessons you can do, but then they also have like little series. So I did the series on like forgiveness. I did this forgiveness series on that, and it was just kind of eye-opening. It really helped me kind of integrate that lesson into my life, where to like try to not hold grudges against people, because you never know, anything could happen, and then if something happens, it's like you don't know if you're going to have that chance to like give them that forgiveness. Or if you just go on I found that if I just keep holding grudges against people, it doesn't hurt them, it hurts me in the long run.
oh yeah.
It's still something I'm working on, and you kind of have to work on every day, but no, I'm not perfect or anything like that, but it's definitely helped me see that.
Yeah. That's a hard one, like holding on to past, traumas, and I mean stuff like that does live in your body, like they're pockets of energy, and I feel like I think there's some truth to the whole like chakra thing within Hinduism and yoga and meditation. I think there is something to that. Like we hold on to certain energies in like certain parts of our body, and I think once you release the energy and kind of let that go, you're much better off, and you can like transcend. Like you can actually like feel lighter and like more free if you let go of that like dark energy that's pulling you down.
Absolutely.
So, no, it's good. I mean, it's hard work, man. But like, I had a few experiences on ayahuasca, and it's funny you talked about vibrations, because it's something that like I had heard about within the psychedelic community and meditation and all that stuff, but I just never really understood it. Like, what are they talking about with vibrations and energy? And there's something to that, man. And I think there's like, I'm still kind of on the precipice of something, understanding it, but I do think. So I'll just get into it, bro. I had this really strong experience on ayahuasca. Each time you drink it, you can go deeper. It's like you have reverse tolerance, basically. For example, if you take psilocybin once a day for 7 days, the feeling is going to diminish. It's going to almost be at nothing by day 7. But with ayahuasca, it actually goes deeper. So if you take it repeatedly, or if you take it even for the third time in your life entirely, like the third time is going to be the strongest. So this was my second time, I think. And each time I drink it, I drink the cup of the medicine. I lay down in bed. I just close my eyes and just kind of wait. I meditate. I focus on my breathing. I put my energy in my body. I try to like live in the moment. And it always comes up as like, God, I'm getting nauseous just thinking about it. But like you can feel the medicine like oozing down your throat, and like it's really hard to digest. It's really acidic. Your body like doesn't really want it in there. So I'm just laying on my bed, like feeling all this stuff happen. And then after 20, 30 minutes, you feel this kind of like tingling. At least I do. Like I said, I have what most people would call anxiety, but ayahuasca kind of changed my outlook on that, and I'll get into that in a second. But I feel this kind of like vibration happening as if I was anxious. It starts in like my belly and my pelvis and like my gut, and it kind of moves throughout my body, like to my hands, to my, fingers. I feel this like tingling, this like vibration in my hands, and it just got more and more intense. 20-30 minutes goes by, and my whole body is vibrating. Like I'm feeling the energy in every single part of my body, in my elbows, and my back, and my hips, and my knees, and my ankles, and my toes, and my face, right here in my third eye. This vibration was just like pulsating. It was so fucking strong, almost painful. It was painful. It was incredibly painful. And then I started hearing things, because you have auditory, I guess you could call them hallucinations on ayahuasca as well. Something I've never experienced on other psychedelics. And it was kind of this,
like a drone, maybe?
Metallic sound. Like someone was like vibrating like a pitchfork or something. It sounded like metal vibrating. So it was kind of like bzzz, like a buzzing sound. And then the vibration changed frequency. And it became more like kind of as if you took the same frequency and like dipped it underwater, or like put it behind like a bubble or something. That's the best way I can describe it. It's almost like muffled, but it completely different tone. It was like bzzz, and then it goes bzzz. And I felt like I plunged into a different dimension altogether via this vibrational frequency. And that's where I communicated with aliens. That's where I communicated with, the beings that put us here. That's what contacted me with, or connected me with the creators, basically. Like God, you could say. So, and I came out of that experience like, a bit confused. Like, what do I do with this information? It's like really kind of, that's what I was talking about with that kind of universal, like ancient wisdom. Like, what do you even do with this? And dude, honestly, I don't really know, but it's definitely helped put things in perspective as far as like what we're doing here, where we come from. And yeah, it just kind of opened the door to like, I think there's something to this vibrational frequency mumbo jumbo. I think it's real.
Wow. What did you understand any of the language? That's amazing. That like these sentient beings that you saw, like, did they talk to you? Were they like, was it like welcoming, or was it like, what are you doing here type of thing?
Oh yeah, I was there to learn from them. Like, I went to their realm to communicate with them. Like, they were there to teach me, and they were happy that I was there, and they were teaching me the secrets of the universe, like kind of ancestral. Like, I wouldn't even say ancestral. It's like deeper than that. It's like old, but it's also from a different dimension. This knowledge that they were imparting onto me, and they were communicating it with me telepathically. It gets weirder.
Oh, I don't mind. That's so interesting. I mean, you hear about this kind of stuff all the time, but like nobody like goes into that much detail with it. It's just like they see these aliens or machine elves or like whatever you call them.
Yeah, that's usually when they smoke DMT. Ayahuasca, it's like a kind of more drawn out experience, and I think that's why it's really valuable. Like, I've smoked DMT before as well, and I saw other beings, but I didn't communicate with them. They were just kind of there. It was just like strange visions. I couldn't really. To this day, I'm just like,
too fast.
What the fuck was that about? Yeah, but the ayahuasca, you communicate with them, and I'm not speaking for everybody. This is just what I've gone through, but yeah, it's really meaningful, dude. It's kind of like if you could sit down and talk to God. That's what I felt like, And there was also another point in the session where I was like, I realized how crazy this sounds. If you've never done psychedelics, I realize how crazy this sounds. But there was another time in the same session where, I'm on their plane of vibration. Because, I mean, if you think about it, it's not that far-fetched to think that, like, there's different planes of vibration. Like, for example, a dog can hear a dog whistle. It's at a certain frequency that humans can't comprehend, like different rays of light, like infrared light, some animals can see. Like we're all equipped to see certain vibrations. And I feel like the human brain is equipped to see reality as we see it, right? But the psychedelics, especially with this experience on ayahuasca, it brought me to a different plane of vibrations. Allowed me to see something that was always there, but I just couldn't comprehend it, if that makes sense. It's like if someone is playing a dog whistle at a certain frequency and you just can't hear it, but one day you can just hear it. That's how it felt. It felt like it's always been there. It didn't feel like I was on drugs. It felt real. And yeah, now I just feel like, I don't know, there's just something to this vibration stuff. I can't really pinpoint what it is, but there's something going on. Need to investigate more.
No, for sure. There's definitely something to the vibrational thing. I had one of these things that I kind of learned or thought. It's just like the whole universe is, you really think about it, we're all just, this is gonna sound like really weird, but we're all just vibrations. Like from this, like we're just a beginning wave point and end wave point, and there's a peak and there's a dip and there's a start and a beginning, but it's like it's all just like this ripple effect from one single point when you really think about it. Like in nature, one thing just affects the other. All our, like even our just molecules, and there's stuff smaller than that too, like atoms and quarks and whatever the hell. It can get like as tiny as possible, and then who knows what's there yet. They haven't discovered.
You're talking about quantum mechanics, quarks and shit?
Yeah, I don't fully understand it, but
yeah.
but it gets pretty deep.
Yeah, well, it's like you can see, yeah, it's like the gold plate experiment or gold particle experiment, something like that, where, shit, I'm about to fumble this so hard. But basically, like, the protons or some part of the atom only exists when you look at it. So,
yeah.
Shit, I can't remember what it's called. The gold something experiment. But that's kind of, like, I think...
Is it the photon, like, slit experiment where they, like, made a opening where only, like, one light particle could go through, and then when they covered it up or something, like, it still kept happening, but in, like, a different spot? Maybe I'm messing that up. I don't exactly remember.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It's, like, only until it's observed.
And I think, yeah, exactly. So it's like existence relies on us witnessing it. I don't even know what you draw from that, but so during my ayahuasca journey, I'm kind of like going back and forth to this other plane, this other kind of frequency of vibration where I'm communicating with our creators. I'm with them in their vibrational realm, and then I'm kind of like, I think to myself, I'm like, oh wait, am I dying? Like I'm in their plane, like what's happening to my body? And my ego kind of kicks back in, and then I like jump back, and I go and I check on my body, and I'm like, okay, I'm not covered in vomit, I'm breathing, my heart is pumping, my lungs are working, I'm good. And then I was able to like go back into their kind of realm, and I was jumping back and forth. And at the time, it felt like a superpower. I was like, wow, I can go to our realm on our vibrational wavelength and make sure I'm not dead, and like make sure my body's still intact, and then I can just go back and hang out with the gods. And there was actually one point where I saw, like, on LSD or something, you kind of like look at the walls and they kind of like melt, or psilocybin, things like flow together, and you have these classic kind of psychedelic experiences. But on ayahuasca, they're more, for me, visions. It's like you're dreaming. It's like you're in a dream, basically. And they're very vivid. So I had this vision where I was able to communicate with Mother Nature, the spirit of the universe. And she was in a rocking chair with a big traditional like 1800s American, like, I don't even know what you call it, like housewife garb, kind of like a big dress. She's in a rocking chair in this big dress by the fire, and she's rocking, and she has this like scrapbook almost, and she's like, come sit right here, I'll tell you the story of the universe. It was just wild, dude.
Oh wow.
Like, and that's what I'm talking about, man. Like I think people should hear about this stuff because it'll clear up a lot of shit in their lives, man. Like, if you like don't have a purpose, or you're suicidal, or you're worried about whatever, like, I just think this will help you be a better human. Like, considering these like universal kind of lessons, like talking to God.
That must have been so deep. It must have been beautiful.
Yeah. To be fair, like I didn't sit on her lap. Like, I don't remember that part. I don't think that actually happened because I was still kind of tripping about, like, am I dead? You know, that was the point where I was like, I think I might be dead. You know what I mean?
I've had a similar experience with that when I went to Colorado, and Hunter and I we started our hike at 10,000 feet, and we were just like, let's just get some shrooms and start walking. So it was almost kind of like a walkabout, and we went up this mountain pass. And Connor, there was snow there that wasn't supposed to be there, and I don't know how the hell we got over this mountain pass because it was full of snow. We were about halfway up, and then we realized it's like, oh, we're having like this. It's all beautiful. We're all just like, oh my God, look at the clouds. They're moving. We feel like just one with nature, and like all these animals are just coming up to us, and it felt like our vibe was just like super good. And then I see that there's like this really steep. I don't even know how we got up this thing. We went up there. We didn't have the right gear because we weren't prepared for the snow. But somehow through all this, we were able to just like calm down and focus, and then just like feel the mountain. And we just like climbed up through the snow, and we found like all the little spots. We were able to focus and find like all the spots that didn't have snow, and we just like traversed this thing. And then at the very top, there was like this final like overhang of snow blocking like our path. And I was just like, we gotta just send it. And then there happened to be a guy on the other side like holding his hand up. He's like, I'm over here. It's like, the path's right here. You just gotta go forward. And we got over there. We were tired, cold, still having this experience, and it was just like, it was crazy. It was just beautiful though. But it
kind of scary though, dude.
It was, but everything worked out, and we had like there was like no panic at all. It was just like focus, and we got it done. Like this beautiful experience, and that was I felt it before, but especially this year, looking at kind of like Native American cultures and like how they interacted with the environment and spirituality and nature. It seems like that they were onto something when there was kind of like a great spirit, like in I don't know if it's like religion or just belief, or when I'm out there and doing something like that, like I definitely feel like there's this presence there, and like I definitely feel it. And it wasn't like a super,
yeah, especially on the mountains.
It wasn't like, we weren't like 5 grams in. We probably did like 1.5 grams or something. So not super far gone, but I mean,
yeah, it's a solid dose to do a treacherous hike on. That's plenty to kind of shake you to your core, you know.
Yeah. But it
on the
was
mountain with the altitude and everything, and like,
yeah, it was a beautiful experience, and felt something similar like that kind of it was like a very maternal, like, it just felt like very calming.
Right, like something had your back, kind of.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna work out. And it was really funny because Hunter was just like, he's like, man, for a second, he's like, I don't know if I can do this. And I was just like, nah, man, we got it. We're gonna catch a fish. It'll be so easy. He brought a fishing rod, and usually it's pretty hard to catch a fish. So we get to this lake, and within 2 minutes, he catches a fish. And I'm just like, I thought this was going to be the hard part. He did it within like 2 minutes. It's crazy. And I saw him do that. I was like, I bet I could do that. I catch a fish within 2 minutes. And I don't know if it was just like
Oh.
I don't know how much I believe in manifestation or anything like that. Maybe it's just my mindset, but it's like I spoke it into existence and it just like happened. I was like, yeah, man, we'll get over this mountain like really easy, and it just like happened easy.
There might be something to that. I mean, I don't know if you like spoke it into existence. I don't know if I believe that, but I think like you had such a positive attitude, you were just willing to make it happen. I'm more willing to believe that. You know, that
Yeah.
you were just like, no, 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 it's going to happen, and then you just made it happen. Like, however, you know, maybe you were more clever with your approach or whatever. But
Felt like we were supposed to be
Yeah.
there for sure. I feel like there's
Yeah.
a certain places. I feel like certain places definitely have like a kind of energy to them. I feel that way about Denver. For me, at least, that was where I had kind of like my eye-opening experience. I feel like that's definitely a place for me. And then I found as I go hiking in some of these places, there's like, I don't know how much I believe in like energies, but good vibes in certain places. It's definitely been kind of like eye-opening for me. In like certain places, I feel like my meditation's better. I don't know if it goes with like the vibes thing or if there's like chakra, like sometimes you read about these things. They talk about like these energy centers of the world where like if you sit on top of like what is it? There's this one place in Arizona that people go to and like meditate, and then they have like these visions or something. It's pretty interesting.
yeah, there might be something to that. When I was in Glastonbury, they say they call them ley lines. So they're like spiritual lines of energy that track the movements of the stars, and you can track them on Earth. So you have like Glastonbury in the UK, which is if you go there, you'll feel it. It's like a very spiritual town. Lots of hippies, lots of psychedelics, meditation, stone circles, like throughout Western Europe, mostly in England and Wales and Scotland and stuff. They have these stone circles that these pagan civilizations would create to, I guess, pay homage to the gods or the sun or whatever. And so Stonehenge is one of them. And then right near there is Glastonbury. So like, you know, I went to both of those places, like I said in my videos, in that pagan festival and then at the music festival. And you can feel something. I don't know if it's like people are buying into it and it's creating the atmosphere, or it's that, you know, it's like a chicken or the egg thing. I'm not sure which one came first, but something is definitely going on there. Also, you know, places like Machu Picchu or Chichen Itza, you know, these places, these megalithic, like stone kind of structures where these pagan civilizations were like paying homage to the gods. I think there's something there. I think it's like the vibration thing where I'm like, I don't know exactly what it is, but you could tell there's something going on, you know?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I used to not think of anything of this stuff, and then you kind of have like a first-hand experience of it, and it's like, oh, is there something to this? Is there not?
Yeah.
Any words of wisdom, closing thoughts for our audience, and or anything that you want to...
We touched on it earlier, but, you know, you only get one life that we know of. And your life, your choices, your path, it's like the most authentic thing, the most original creation. You know, it's your life. It's your life's work. It's your, some people want to say legacy. It's the one thing that you have. So you should make it interesting. You should make it original. You should make it true to yourself. And if that's why picket fence, 9 to 5, SUV, mortgage, 2 kids, that is fine. Like if you've decided that's what you want, that's fucking cool. But, you know, just don't buy into anything just because other people are doing it. You know, like I think carve out your own path and you'll be a lot happier. You know, and I think the world will like push back against you in a lot of ways. Like I'm realizing that on my journey from Ireland to Japan on a motorcycle. Like I've gotten a lot of pushback with, you know, people back home, or like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this? But at the end of the day, like if you know it's what you want your life to be, then do it. You know, it's really that simple, and it's not going to be easy. But most good things in life are not easy.
What's the best way that people can support you right now as you make your journey across?
Best way people can support me is on Patreon. It's $3 a month. You get early access to all my podcasts. You get early access to my Ukraine videos. I'll probably do some more early access stuff with kind of more hot places I go to, like in the Middle East. You get deleted scenes, extended cut videos. You got a lot of stuff. $3 a month, and it really helps me get down the road. If I can make $500 a month online, I could stay on the road for a very long time. I can make it all the way to Japan fairly easily. Right now, I'm making about $95 a month on Patreon, so still have a ways to go. So if you like the conversation, if you like my YouTube videos, if you have $3 extra a month, then support your boy. Other than that, my YouTube channel, obviously, it's just my name. It's Connor McBee on YouTube. I post videos, probably 4 or 5 videos a month, so pretty active on there. And then Instagram, Connor.McBee.
Sounds good. Well, it was great talking to you, and hopefully we can hear more from you in the future with your future endeavors.
Yeah, bro. Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for like sitting down for so long and figuring out the time zone situation. And yeah, it was a blast, dude.